And welcome inside to the opening drive. Nick Kosko, Mike Antosiewicz. We are back after quite a break we had. First time we're back in studio in a few weeks. Off last week because of the snowstorm. The week before that, we were in a hotel room in Cleveland. Mike, it's been a while. I feel like we've missed a lot of things going on in the sports world. We've secluded ourselves, I would say, the past 2 weeks.
Well, we talked a lot about wrestling recently. Last week, obviously, we couldn't do the full recap of Nationals, but we'll get into that today a little bit. But what we really missed is NFL free agency.
Oh,
a lot of stuff has gone
on.
And guess what? As of now, the Giants or the Jets won't be in the playoffs next year. So
I would count on maybe both not being in the playoffs.
Exactly.
Next year.
So nothing has changed too dramatically, but still a lot of things have happened. So
well, we'll definitely discuss some NFL free agency today because we have missed a lot. We were going to look at doing that last week too, of course, when we were eventually snowed out. But we will get into NFL free agency today. We'll talk, of course, some Rutgers Wrestling, kind of put a bow on the season and look ahead to next season a little bit, talk some NFL, and get into some baseball. Opening day is just now 2 days away, and we are excited. I know I am. Finally, some spring weather, maybe. Easter's this weekend as well. So there's a lot going on. Also, NFL mock draft for WRSU, April 24th, Tuesday. It's from 8 to 10 p.m. Make sure to tune in for that. Got some alums coming back. Got the whole department going at it. Mike, we're on the same team. I know you've been secluded, but we are on the same team.
Yes. We are. And I think somebody else just joined us, right?
Yes, we have Tevin Johnson was added to our team.
Okay.
So there's a couple of three-man teams for this mock draft. Make sure you tune in for that. That's April 24th. That's going to be a fun night where the three alums come back, host the quote-unquote sports night show, and then we do our mock draft with all the teams.
While the alums do a embarrassingly bad job at judging, by the way.
Yes, we'll see how it goes this year.
They never judge correctly.
Well, Dylan Merzinski is back, our former sports director, and of course we're going to have Gabe Sustick, our sports director last year, and Ryan Moran is also coming back. So we have a panel of esteemed judges.
So basically, for Moran, it's like, you need to trade 17 picks in order to get 16 back. You know what I mean?
And maybe that's a good deal.
Exactly.
And then flip those for 2 players and 5 more picks. To move up to number 2 overall.
Exactly. And then I'll argue along the way that the kicker you're going to pick in the 3rd round was worth it.
That's right.
So,
Make sure you tune in. That's April 24th, 8 to 10 p.m. on this very station. All right, Mike, let's get into some Rutgers Wrestling. It's been 2 weeks. We have digested what has happened with this team back in Cleveland. Tournament results are in. They finished 11th, highest place ever.
By that half a point.
By half a point. I know. Of course, you were pointing it out the entire day on Saturday.
To the point where you probably wanted to punch me in the face. But.
Probably. I would have thrown our equipment onto the mat. So they finished 11th. They finished a half point behind Arizona State for 10th, but it was Rutgers' most points and highest place finish ever as a team at the NCAA tournament. They had 2 All-Americans, Nick Suriano and Scott Del Vecchio. Suriano, the first ever Rutgers finalist. He dropped that match 5-1 to Iowa's Spencer Lee. While disappointing, you can't say it was shocking. I think the only thing, Mike, we can obviously we've talked a lot about this, and it's been 2 weeks now, so it's kind of old news. But I think the biggest thing we were surprised about, not even shocked over, was that Suriano, I don't think, was totally prepared for the type of defense Spencer Lee threw at him. We knew it was going to be a close match. We knew it was going to be low scoring. It was probably going to be a 1-2 takedown type of match. The first takedown argument was going to win the match, and that went to Lee very late in the first period. If you take away that late first period takedown and then the cheap one that Lee had in the 3rd period, we have a tie match. Lee didn't do anything special, as we like to point out from that match. Didn't do anything crazy. He just got a late takedown in the first period that was cheap, and then he earned that second takedown in the 3rd period. That's what I meant to say. And every time, Suriano was in twice on deep shots, just couldn't finish them, and he just couldn't break the hand defense of Spencer Lee.
Well, I've reflected on this a lot, and I have about probably 3 hours of commentary, but I will boil it down to...
just on the first period.
Just on the first period. I'll boil it down to 2 or 3 points, and I agree with everything you just said. I think that... starting with your initial comment about Suriano's readiness, he was not ready. He was not ready probably from a physical standpoint. Although I don't think that was the issue, but I do think
no,
that it factored
and it's not an
into
excuse, Mike. But he did. I mean, the news is out that he was hospitalized for 8 straight days.
For 8 straight days,
and he missed about 2-3 weeks of training in total, and I think that set him back a little bit.
And
but
he didn't wrestle any live competition.
No,
and
I mean, did it affect him? Sure, but is it an excuse? Absolutely not.
And all the matches he wrestled were easy matches, and I think that's where he really wasn't ready. So physically, yeah, there were some issues, but I really think his most significant problem was his mat readiness. And what I mean by that is his lack of experience wrestling in matches for a full month going into the national tournament. And if you look at the matches he did wrestle, he wrestled people that were a whole echelon lower in terms of talent and ability than himself and Spencer Lee, right? The last big win you could say he had was Sebastian Rivera of Northwestern,
who he beat twice this year.
And he also beat
Ronnie Bresser too. But arguably those were his 2 biggest wins of the year. Because he didn't even wrestle Ethan Lezak from Minnesota.
Exactly. But so his last big win was against Sebastian Rivera. Well, he beat Rivera handily twice. And then what happened? Lee wrestled Rivera later in that tournament. Not later in the tournament, just in the tournament,
and he killed
NCAA tournament, and he killed him. So the wrestlers he wrestled were a whole echelon lower than he, right? It was Nick Suriano, Darian Cruz, Tomasello, and Lee. Those are the top 4. Everybody else, there was a significant drop off.
To Suriano's credit, he did. I know it was only 2-0, but he did dominate Cruz in the semifinals.
No, he did dominate Cruz in the semifinals, but the point is there wasn't a lot of wrestling happening in that match.
Oh,
there's a lot of circling.
No shots.
There was a lot of standing around. So the issue is, when you get into a match with Spencer Lee, who has been wrestling as much as possible, who's wrestled Tomasello three times
and beat him twice.
He's wrestled Lezak. He wrestled everyone. He has experience. Suriano took a shot. Lee did that amazing shin whizzer of his. He's the best at that in the country. Then a scramble sequence ensued.
If you recall, Mike, obviously we do, because we not only did we call the match, I think both of us have rewatched it at least 10 times, that match. And Suriano, a nice outside sweep, got to the leg. He was deep. His shoulder was on Lee's hamstring. And Lee throws in that shin whizzer, as you mentioned, throws his arm in there, and just keeps prying. And Suriano, he finishes that on anybody else in the country. Even you can make the argument if he does that to Nathan Tomasello as well, who's a brute force at 125. He takes him down. Lee is just unbelievable at being able to defend that. And and just to repeat the point, I don't think Suriano was necessarily ready for that type of defense.
Exactly. I mean, when, for example, and this is just my point. So he was in a scrambling situation with Spencer Lee in the national final. Nick Suriano, a guy who hasn't wrestled that much recently, who hasn't been has only not been in a scramble situation for a full month and over a month, 5 weeks. Hasn't actually been in a scramble situation this whole year. I can't remember one time this year he was in an actual scramble.
I don't recall, but maybe at Midlands with Rivera or Bresser. But other than that, the guy literally has killed everybody he wrestled this year.
When you've dominated everybody, because of your injury, you didn't wrestle any of the top people, even like an Ethan Lezak or anything like that. And then you go into the national final, and now you have to be in a scramble situation against Spencer Lee, the only other kid who's just as good as you, who's been wrestling all these matches. And now you, in a scramble situation, who hasn't been in a scramble situation, who hasn't for a full year, hasn't wrestled for the last 5 weeks, is supposed to come out of that on top. There was no. It became just a very, very sharp improbability, a stark improbability, and I think that's what ultimately did it. And to your second point about Spencer Lee, Lee is obviously really, really, really good, and I have a lot of respect for him because he's not one of those.
He's not one of those typical champions that's going to be boisterous about his accomplishments.
No, he's also not one of those Iowa people that's like.
The Iowa way, like the G-Men way.
Don't get me in there. But he's a very respectable guy. He's a very respectable wrestler. But
you saw the mutual respect they had for each other after the match when they
did you see their fathers too?
Yeah, even their fathers hugged. Yeah, so I was pleased about that.
Lee is very, very good. This is not bitter at all. but I have tremendous respect for him, especially for his defense, because his hand defense is remarkable. His strength is ridiculous.
You can't break that. It's unbelievable.
No one this year could beat Suriano with their hands, or could stop Suriano with his hands. Spencer Lee could do it, but anyway, that's not my point.
Well,
his hand defense is amazing.
Well, let me ask you a question here, as I wanted to get.
My last point is just that he did nothing that suggested that Suriano has Suriano has to catch up to him. I think that if Suriano wrestled Tomasello during the course of the season, wrestled Lezak, wrestled in the Big Ten all the way through the Big Ten, I do think I do think that would have made the difference. So. This could go back and forth, but I don't think Suriano is at a disadvantage.
That's where I was going to go next, Mike, actually, before we get off the topic. I was going to suggest to you, do you think if he had wrestled all the way through the Big Ten tournament, say he beats Lezak in the semifinals, and then he gets Nathan Tomasello in the finals, and say Suriano is a Big Ten champion, beating Piotrowski, Lezak, and then Tomasello all the way through at the Big Ten tournament, and then he goes to NCAAs, he's arguably the number one seed then after that. Then the seedings might get shifted around. Not to play too much into the hypothetical game here, but if you do that, then you're looking at, okay, Suriano 1, Cruz is 2, Tomasello is 3, and then Lee is 4th at that point. At that point, you're going to get a Suriano-Lee semifinal, but in turn, as you just kind of mentioned, I was going to allude to this, if he had won the Big Ten tournament, beating those top guys, would you have given him a better shot to beat Lee, whether it be in the semis or the finals, at NCAAs, and he probably would have had a better chance to win a national title, no?
Definitely. No, Nick, he just missed bad experience, and you know what? What really made the difference is not only the bad experience, is that Spencer Lee has gone through some trial and tribulation this season, and not only being in scrambles, but he's lost this season. Suriano's been so dominant; he's never had a struggle with anybody in a match.
No adversity.
He never when he gets to people's legs, he never really had a fight for a takedown because he's so strong and explosive. He's there. Lee has a shin wizard in on him. Well, wizard. You just haven't dealt with that the entire year. Now you have to deal with it. I just think it became.
It's like running into a brick wall almost.
Yeah, and listen, he's a very, very good wrestler. I still think though that
one of them's going to bump up.
I think Suriano's going to bump up because, I do think he's getting bigger. If you look at Suriano muscularly, the kid's a freak. And also, just looking at Rutgers' recruiting situation, they have a kid right now that could come into 125.
And start right away.
And is going to be ranked unless there's some injury or something like that.
So let's transition into that now. Let's look ahead to next year before we kind of, get off Rutgers Wrestling for a little while until, of course, we can maybe score Coach Goodell in here one more time.
Oh, I think so.
So when we look ahead to next year, Mike, this team, at least this past season, was supposed to be extremely good. Top 10, possibly even push top 5 at some point this year.
Probably not, but,
still. Last year, I think we hyped up a little too much, myself included, with one Kevin Mulligan. We don't know what's going to happen with him next year, but we look at the 2018-19. We will not be here covering the team intensely. That'll be our buddy Matt Howe's job. But we'll still be watching, of course. But when we look ahead to next year, Mike, you mentioned the possibility of Suriano bumping up. It's quite possible. I don't think he's going to, but if he does, and he didn't rule it out. I know we saw an interview with him with Flow Wrestling right after the tournament. He said, I just got to see how my body feels and how it grows.
He did say it is growing. He
did say it is growing, so you never know. If he feels more comfortable staying at 125, good for him. They'll figure it out because they're going to figure anything out. Wherever he wants to go, Coach Goodell and the rest of the staff, they will figure it out. But if he does bump up, let's play this hypothetical because it's a distinct possibility. Let's do this now. So he'll go to 133. He'll replace Scott Del Vecchio, who is graduating, and by the way, had a fantastic run at the end of the tournament to become an All-American. I think we have to give all the credit in the world to Scott Del Vecchio, who we thought was going to bow out early after some struggles in Cleveland a bit, and then he just reeled off 5 straight wins, and he finished in 6th place. I think he got all the credit in the world due to him being an All-American for the first time. But he graduates. Suriano bumps to 133. Now let's play the hypothetical. The freshman's coming in. Nico Aguilar from California. 2-time California state champion. National champion for high school seniors. He just won that tournament. This kid's good. I thought This kid's probably going to redshirt. He might bump up to 33 after a redshirt year, but it looks like, Mike, if Soriano bumps up, that spot's open for him. I know Shane Metzler and Luke Eckloff burned their red shirts. If anybody was going to start out of those two, it'd be Metzler. But with this kid coming in, and with 25 supposedly going to be a wide-open race if Soriano bumps up, Aguilar definitely fits the bill. You're looking at a 1-2 punch of Nico Aguilar, a true freshman, then Nick Soriano, and then we'll move on from there. But what do you think about the prospect of Aguilar going 25 and Soriano going 33 next year?
As I indicated earlier, I think it's very, very, very likely. Unless they say to themselves, we want to redshirt Aguilar, and I haven't.
If they do, they can't burn their. They can't. If they do, they have to commit to it. And they cannot burn his red shirt. Say Soriano goes 25, then he ends up bumping up in the middle of the year. They have to commit to burning or to keeping Aguilar's red shirt and then just plugging in Metzler at 125. Is that what they can't do is burn Aguilar's red shirt in the middle of the year, and that'll screw him up. Because he's a pretty good talent that you want to have a full 4 years of, and not 3.5. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So now I don't know why they would right now. I haven't worked out all the scenarios in my head, so I can't claim to have done so. But I don't see a reason right now, or a palpable reason right now, why they would want to redshirt him. So if they don't want to redshirt him, now there's always the reason, of course, that you just want to give him a year of experience so that he's better for the next 4, which is a good reason. Don't get me wrong.
We've seen that work out in both ways.
Yeah. I think that they probably want Aguilar to wrestle his freshman year. If he is, he's going to have to wrestle at 25. I think Soriano is getting bigger. I do think, although Seth Gross is returning, the national champion at 133, there is no doubt in my mind that Soriano, if he were to bump up right now to 33,
there's a lot of guys.
He would be the best wrestler in that weight class. I think he's better than Gross. I think Micic is great. I think he's better than Micic. Tariq Wilson, I'm not too worried about. Pletcher's good, but I think Soriano could take him.
A lot of young bucks back. Out of the All-Americans, Mike, the only one graduating is actually Scott DeVecchio. Everybody else is back. Do I agree with you that he would be he wouldn't be a prohibitive favorite, but he would be definitely one of the favorites to win a national title, as Gross finally did it. He has 1 more year. Micic has 2 more years. Wilson has 3, but I think Wilson was a freak this year out of nowhere. I think he's very good, but I think Soriano's better. And then if you look down the list, Pletcher, I think he could beat Pletcher. And then everybody else after that, he's certainly better than. So I think the two guys he has to worry about are Gross and Micic next year. If you were to bump
I think
up.
He's so physically strong that I think you could take both of them. So
he's got the count of the length though. Is Gross and Micic are definitely longer wrestlers than Soriano.
Especially Gross. Gross is longer than Micic, but yeah. So I think that I think that they want Soriano at 33. I think that if they put Soriano at 33, it could be Metzler, it could be Aguilar. Now they might say to themselves, you know what? We already burnt Metzler's red shirt. How about we give Aguilar the red shirt now, get him better, and then we have Metzler in.
That's a possibility.
That's a possibility.
But
too.
you know Coach Goodell.
But
he's not always looking ahead. He's looking, what can these guys do for me now so we can win dual meets? Because I would say Mike, we know this. Until tournament season, Coach Goodell and the rest of that Rutgers staff, their main focus is, okay, who's going to help us win dual meets? How are we going to win dual meets? And who are we going to put in the best position so we set them up for a good tournament? But it starts with the dual meet season. I believe if they think Aguilar is going to give them more points, more wins at 125, they certainly will get them in there at 125. But then you have to look at they're going to wrestle off. I mean, there's no guarantee for any of those guys at 125 should Soriano bump up. They're going to wrestle them off. If Aguilar wins and he beats Metzler and Eckloff and he's the best guy by far, they'll start him.
Yeah, and again, there's so many scenarios. 41 is going to be interesting because
we're clamoring for a certain kid to transfer into this program. Sedarian Perry, Eastern Michigan. They just cut their wrestling program. Sedarian Perry was under 500 going into the tournament, ended up being an All-American at 141. He was Eastern Michigan's first All-American since 1999, and it was Eastern Michigan's best team season, I think, in school history, or at least since 1999 as well. They cut their program. Perry immediately said, looking for a new school to transfer to. I immediately said, you know what, come to Rutgers because he'll have a good chance. He's returning All-American. He's going to be in a room with Nick Suriano, Anthony Ashnall below and above him.
And there's so many
You know,
lightweights. There's so many practice partners.
And he's not
too,
from anywhere specific, Mike. He's from Florida, so there's no school attached to that state. Why not come here? I don't know. I did see Coach Goodell follow him on Twitter, so he's probably doing his homework on him. If he should come here, Mike, I would say he has the inside track to starting because you have Mike Van Brill there who filled in pretty nicely for Anthony Ashnault this season at 141, but did not have a good Big Ten tournament and just missed NCAAs. He was hit or miss sometimes this year. I think Van Brill still has a lot of room to grow. He can be very good. But if you add a kid like Sedarian Perry, I think at least for Rutgers, you have a good shot at, you're going to get maybe 3 straight All-Americans at 133, 41, and 49. Because at 149, we're assuming Anthony Ashnault is going to be back and also bump up to 49. So Perry, he's got 2 years left, and he'll be transferring from a different conference. So, obviously, if you're Rutgers, I think you would want to take 2 more years of Sedarian Perry. You love Mike Van Brill, but you got to get talent where talent is.
That's an issue. Is that and there's also Robert Cleary, but he just came off a red shirt. So the issue is if Perry comes in and then he wrestles the next 2 years.
Do you bump other guys around too?
Well, what could happen is that next year Mike Van Brill doesn't wrestle at all, but then the year after that when Ashnault's gone, 49 is open. Maybe Perry goes 49, or then Mike Van Brill could go 49. There's also Robert Cleary in all of this too,
and they like him too.
They like him too. So, someone is going to be the odd man out.
That it is, and there's not much for explanation here. 149, it's going to be Anthony Ashnault. He'll be a favorite to win the title at that weight, just based on our conversations with some people. We believe he's going to be going up to 149. He has grown immensely this season while he's been recovering from his shoulder and knee surgeries. He has gotten stronger. And getting back into it, Mike, the kid probably weighs around 165, so he's going to cut to 149. The 141 cut's probably too much for him. And if you look at 149 next year, Mike, Rutherford graduates, Ronnie Perry graduates, who made a tremendous run to the finals from Lock Haven. Brandon Sorensen is gone. So is Troy Heilman, his former teammate from South Plainfield. The only guys really coming back are, and look at Searches is graduating too. Grant Leith from Missouri is coming back. So is Matthew Kolodzik from Princeton, and Bo Llewellyn from Oklahoma State's back, and also Ryan Deacon. But from stuff we've read, Deacon's probably going to make that move up to 157 because he's a big 49-pounder. He's long, very strong. He'll probably be moving up. So really, Ashnault, plugging him at 49, Mike, he's probably the prohibitive favorite to win the title next year.
Absolutely. Now, is there any talk of Yanni bumping up?
I've heard something like that, but I believe he is going to be staying.
Because
he owns that weight class right now.
Do you know Kyle Dake won 4 national championships in 4 different weight classes?
Does Yanni want to be the second kid to do that?
Well, do you know what weight class Dake won his freshman year?
141.
Yeah. Yanni just won at 141.
So maybe you see that. But,
so maybe he's like, maybe.
But then again, Mike, you look at 141. Yanni won the title on a torn ACL, by the way. Did you know that? He won that tournament on a torn ACL. The last 3 matches. So that's why he was all wrapped up.
What do you mean a last 3 matches? He tore his ACL during the tournament?
It was either before or during the tournament, and he was wrestling that entire tournament with an injured knee. That is why he adjusted his scrambling, and that's even more amazing how he was able to beat Bryce Meredith in the finals.
Oh, my God.
So there you go. But he's back. Meredith's gone. McKenna's back. Ironman's back. Lee is back. Jack's gone. Red's back. And Perry will be back. So, but Yanni defeated the best guys in this weight class. There's no reason to think that he would bump up. But if he does, he does. And then that'll be interesting. 149 Ashnault and Yanni. But I got to say he'll stay there. 157, Mike. Now, this is going to be very interesting next year for Rutgers at 157. Because they have this kid named Stefan Glasgow coming in. A year late, but he went to prep school last year for academic reasons. He's now in. He still has his full 5 years of eligibility. He's joining this recruiting class. He is a pure talent, Mike. He is a day one type of starter. The question is, where does he go? Does he go 57 or does he go 65? I have heard he wants to go 57, but in his way right now is John Van Brill, who was a round of 12 guy, arguably should have been an All-American this year. But let's not get into that.
That match, we could have like 5 shows on just talking
about. Just about that match. Just that third period.
Yeah.
In any event, those two are going to start. It's just a matter of where. Does Glasgow go 57 like he wants to, or does he bump up to 65 in lieu of John Van Bril, who's better suited for 57. As we saw last season, 65 may be a bit too much for him. I don't know. This is a huge question as to whether or not who gets 57, who gets 65. What do you see happening, Mike, next season at those two weights? Because they're both going to start. It's just a matter of where.
Well, there's one strategy that says,
and also, Mike, I mean, it's not far from possibility, but it's very unlikely. You can't rule out the fact that Grello, who was recruited as a 65/74 pounder, you cannot rule out that he might cut.
No, he's not going to cut because there's no 74 if he doesn't go
Pagano's
74.
back.
That would be interesting. No, I don't think Grello's going to cut because I
don't think so either, but I'm just saying you can't rule it out because Goodell likes having a lot of depth, and they haven't had a lot of depth in the upper weights lately. The fact that you have Grello, you still have Pagano, I still feel like they like Pagano, just Grello just kept beating him this year. You can't rule out the possibility that they're like, okay, maybe Grello, you cut back down to 65. We'll throw Pagano in at 74.
Maybe, but again, there's different strategies.
It's lower on my list. It's lower on my list.
One strategy could be that we try to disperse. We try to get as much talent as possible in each weight class. The other talent could be. The other strategy is, let's set it up so that we have people being the best. Like, for example, if you could have Glasgow go 65 and Van Bril go 57 because Van Bril would not be a good 65, right? Because he's kind of lanky and thin.
Glasgow's got room to grow, and he's athletic enough for that weight too.
My point is, let's say Glasgow could go 57 and he could be like ranked 7th in the country, but he goes 65 and is ranked 13th, right? Well, you could say, well, you know what? If he's going to be so much better 57, put him at 57. But on the other hand, if Van Bril could be ranked,
top 15,
top 15 in at.
Would you rather have Glasgow number 7 at 57 and Van Bril unranked at 65, or flip it
exactly
and have 15 and 13?
And have 15 and 13. Would you rather, you know what I mean?
So I think you'd rather have two ranked guys.
I think you'd rather have
a better shot to win dual meets and
I think that's
so that's what you think. I really think Glasgow's going to fight for 57 until he
and that's why I think Grello stays at 74 because I think there's a much better chance.
I don't think he's dropping, but I'm just saying
you
cannot rule it out. I think it's a possibility that they might consider that. But for now, I mean, I would just pencil him in at 174. Pagano's still riding the bench. I think he's got one more year anyway. Gravina's back, Mike. 6th year of eligibility. We didn't expect it, but he got it granted earlier last year. He'll be at 84, and if it weren't for him, Mike, we'd have to say another true freshman in Billy Janzer from Delsey Regional, 2-time state champion in New Jersey. He'd be the starter at 184 because he's a mammoth. He is huge. He's very lengthy as well. He might be bigger than Gravina, actually. Now I think he is bigger than Gravina, at least size-wise. But the fact that Gravina's back, this might even help Janzer. You just hope the redshirt year doesn't kill him like it has for some other guys. But I think a redshirt year would be good for Janzer, considering 84 is a stacked weight. It's still a stacked weight class, and also, I mean, those are big boys. There's a big difference between the top New Jersey high school 82-pounders and the top college 84-pounders. So I would say a redshirt year for Janzer is probably the best bet, considering Gravina's back. So I would pencil in Gravina at 184. 97 is where it gets interesting, Mike, because Kevin Mulligan is back. He wrestled about half the year, wasn't with the team, quote-unquote, from, that's what Coach Goodell said. He's still around the team. We know this, but we don't know what his status is for next year. It's a big question mark. Matt Correnti was redshirted purposely so he could bump up and get bigger and get stronger to wrestle heavyweight.
Doesn't look like
and now it looks like he might be going back down to 197. So there's a big question mark here. Do you go Correnti? Do you go Mulligan at 197? And if you just say for kicks, Mike, that Mulligan goes 97. What do you do with Correnti? You can't bump. I don't think you can bump him back up. That's a lot of weight to make up. See, if he cut that back down, you're kind of screwing yourself. So I think right now you might have to say the inside track goes to Correnti at 97, considering he was an NCAA qualifier in St. Louis last season at that weight. And if you do that, you're probably looking at a wrestle offer for heavyweight, which I believe we think it's going to be Dylan DeMore, unless they bring in a transfer. But I think looking at the top two guys are going to be Correnti at 97 and DeMore at heavyweight.
I think so too.
There's your lineup. Now, Mike, putting it all together, just to kind of wrap this up. If that lineup, you go Aguilar, Suriano, let's just say hypothetically they got Perry in a transfer. Perry, Ashnault, Van Brill, Glasgow, Grello, Gravina, Carenti, Demore. To me, on paper, as we said last year, but hopefully it'll be more true this year, that is easily a top 10 lineup. That is possibly a top 7 team in the country. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, as of now, I mean, what teams you got to look at? It's going to be Penn State, Ohio, not in order. Penn State, Ohio State is going to be up there.
Iowa's guys
Michigan,
back.
Iowa, so that's already 4.
NC State is good again
NC
next year.
State is very, very good.
Machiavel's gone, though.
Yeah, but still, they're very, very good. I don't think Oklahoma State's going to really be...
they're not going to be the world beater.
They'll probably be top 10, but they're not going to be up there. Lehigh might be up there. But go right now to the dual meet. Let's see what it was.
The final rankings are March 17th. Penn State, Ohio State.
Oklahoma State still is up there.
You still Missouri.
Cornell, yeah.
Missouri. So
Lehigh
Rutgers.
Lehigh had 10
yeah.
qualifiers.
Yeah, you know what?
So.
I think they are going to be a top 10 team next year with that kind of lineup.
Top 7 maybe, but not top 5. I don't think.
It's going to be tough. They
tough.
have to knock off some teams. They would need a tough schedule next year and knock off a couple of those big teams.
Exactly.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. That's going to wrap it up for Rutgers Wrestling for at least a little while. We'll come back to it in a few weeks in case there's any news. Of course, if Rutgers does land us, Dario Imperio, boy, we'll be sure to talk about that. In any event, we'll take a quick break. On the other side, we'll discuss some NFL free agency and dive into some baseball as well. Opening day is very close. The NFL draft is coming up later in April. It's going to be it's an exciting time. March Madness is almost over. Final Four already. I believe that starts Friday. Final Four basketball. Mike, do you pay attention at all?
No.
So you're in the dark. All right.
I don't even know who's in the Final Four.
Loyola Chicago against Michigan.
Okay.
And then Kansas Villanova.
Okay, so there's 2 Catholic schools.
There's 2 Catholic schools.
Oh, what this?
Yeah, okay. We're going to take a quick break. On the other side, NFL free agency coming up. Make sure to keep it locked. You're listening to The Opening Drive here on 88.7 WRSU FM and online at WRSU.org. Welcome back inside The Opening Drive. Nick Kosko, Mike Antosiewicz, 8:21. We'll take up to 9 o'clock. Mike, you said leave early? You said leave early, correct?
Yes.
All right, so he'll be gone in about 24 minutes. And that's just me and you, folks. So, Mike, NFL free agency, we did not really get to dive into too much. There's been a lot of NFL news, actually. So, ESPN put out their power rankings post-free agency. They're still way too early. NFL draft didn't happen yet. We're not even into training camp yet. Also, some new rules approved. Excuse me. The catch rule was modified to be much simpler. I think we could talk about that a little bit, but I mean, there's really not much to say other than it's basically at where it should be, that you need to have possession, 2 feet, and then a football move, which essentially is a third step, a knee down, or a lunge for the goal line or something. I think the NFL got it right in simplifying the catch rule, but I think at some point, Mike, it's still going to be subjective enough where people are still going to argue the fact that, okay, he had 2 feet in possession, but he's making this football move. Was that a football move before he lost possession? I think this catch rule is better, but it's still going to be a problem this season. I think you might even have more reviews this season because people are going to say, well, did he actually make a football move? Did he make a third step? Did he dive for the end zone? Did he dive out of bounds or refer to the first down marker? I think it's better, but there's still going to be problems this season.
Yeah, but that's the benefit of having a rule, right? Is that, okay, there's like a whole spectrum of things going on. You put a rule, right? A rule which is a category, a label, and you say, out of this spectrum of things, this range of them is a catch, right? Well, that's nice because it gives us information on 80% of all the things out there, but by definition, because it gives us, by nature, I should say, because it gives us what 80% is, it makes 20% really problematic. So before, where you had like things just to figure out, you go from
You got a bunch of things going on.
So
it is simplified,
it's
which is good. It's simplified. There's also another rule change. NFL's hammering down. Of course, I mean the concussion issues are relevant. They're a problem. It's very scary. And players are talking about it, and the NFL's trying to make this game safer. But, Mike, one of these new rule changes they actually just approved. They approved a rule that if you lower your head and lead with your helmet, no matter where it goes, whether it's head to head or even to the body, you're going to get penalized, and there's a chance for ejection. I honestly think, and I'm with the players on this guy, I think we could both speak. I mean, I know we played high school football, but we can at least speak to the fact that we have at least played the game. We kind of have a basic idea of what these players are thinking. I think putting that rule into effect, it might cause more harm. Because at least Richard Sherman's right now, Richard Sherman, now a corner for the Seahawks, is very outspoken. I don't necessarily...
No, not for the 49ers, not the Seahawks.
Did I say Seattle?
Yeah.
My fault. 49ers, yes. He left Seattle. He is now with the 49ers. He's very outspoken. I think he's kind of a loudmouth a little bit, but I do agree with him on this, Mike. Taking out the head completely, which, I mean, I know you want to, but if you can't lead with your head, in essence, you can't lead with your shoulder to the body. And these guys are going to be diving for legs. They're going to be diving for knees. You might have a lot more lower body injuries because if you can't kind of lead with your head and shoulder to the chest area, I mean, especially look at a guy like Gronkowski who gets taken out by the legs anyway. You might see more injuries now with this rule in effect. I think it ends up making this game as equally dangerous or even more dangerous because these guys are going to be worried about their knees and legs now.
No, there is. The vernacular, I shouldn't say even the vernacular, but the language is targeting, right? That
targeting is head-to-head, and right. You have to take that out.
Now,
I agree.
For example, but targeting, in order to target, right, you have to intend to hit something, right? That intention to target somebody's head, that is very problematic. That is wrong.
Yeah.
We have to take that out of the game. I completely understand that.
I agree.
But the problem is that, well, not everything is intentional. Some things are incidental. Some things just happen. And I think that this is doing way too much to try to stop the incidental. Things are going to happen.
You can't stop incidental.
Now, there's a difference between being scrupulous, being methodical, trying to make sure that unnecessary risks aren't taken. Yes, or people aren't exposed to unnecessary risks. I agree with that. But I think this goes too far. Because just people tackle with their heads first, not because they want to use their head as the principal instrument of bringing somebody to the ground.
And the biggest part of the rule, Mike, is leading with the crown of the helmet.
Yeah, because they want to lead with the shoulder pads. Now,
but how do you do that? You need to lean your head into it a little bit.
You need to lead your head in. Now, there's a difference, again, between leading with the crown of the helmet.
Yes, absolutely.
Or trying to work with your shoulder and hitting
your head just follows
with the face mask, right?
Exactly.
That's what you're taught, is that, face mask into the guy, shoulder, chest out on your shoulder,
wrap underneath and drive through.
But now this is saying even if you don't use the crown of your helmet, but it's a face mask makes contact, that's also going to be penalized. So I think this is too much. Now, am I going
is this the NFL trying to police the league a little too much because they're so worried about the dangers of concussions? I think it's a genuine reaction, but as you mentioned, I think they're trying to do too much, and you really cannot prevent the incidentals of this game. You could take out targeting. You can enforce a targeting rule like college, but that could still be subjective. But you can't police all the incidental contact. What if you're leading with your head and shoulder, trying to go into the body of a guy, and he ducks to try to make you miss, and then you go helmet to helmet? And you're going to eject the guy for that, for the receiver ducking down?
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. There's a real issue. Targeting is also the easiest because it looks at players' intentions, and it's easy to see if they
It's easy to see if the guy's intentionally leading with the crown of his helmet and drilling it into your own face mask or your own head.
Yeah.
It's easy to see that.
So I'm not going to say now that, well, we're going to see a 20% spike this year in lower body injuries. I'm not sure that's going to be the case.
But do you think it's a possibility?
Oh, I think it's a possibility. I'm not just going to say, no, I think Richard Sherman's like, well, now this is going to definitely happen. I'm not sure if it's definitely going to happen, but it certainly raises the possibility.
It does. So now that we got the rules stuff out of the way, Mike, let's talk a little bit about some of the big names in free agency. I would say the biggest signing was Kirk Cousins to the Vikings. I think this makes the Vikings a Super Bowl contender because they actually, not that they actually have a quarterback, was Case Keenum played as well as you could last year up until the NFC Championship game. But with Kirk Cousins, the Vikings are certainly set at quarterback. They gave him a huge guaranteed deal. So the Vikings are sitting pretty. The Eagles, Super Bowl champions, they brought in some young pieces, not young pieces. They brought in a few pieces. They brought in Haloti Ngata to that defensive line. They let Vinny Curry and Bo Allen go. They're bringing Chris Long back. They added to the receiving core by letting Torrey Smith go. They brought in Mike Wallace this year, which I think is very underrated. And the Eagles also traded for Michael Bennett, who, by the way, is having his own issues because he was indicted for basically injuring a 66-year-old paraplegic woman who was doing security at a Super Bowl. Now, first of all, why is a paraplegic? Nothing against them, but why are they doing security at a Super Bowl when you know there's going to be about 100 people bum rushing one entrance to get onto the field?
Yeah.
That to me does not seem smart. Now, there's no video evidence of this incident. There's no photographic evidence of this incident. They said they couldn't find him on the field when there's clearly TV cameras and photos of Bennett on the field at the Super Bowl the other year when the Patriots beat the Falcons because Bennett was celebrating with his brother. So that is going to play out. His bail was set. I think he'll obviously get out. I think it's probably going to go to court, but with no evidence. It's a very interesting, sticky situation. So, I mean, there's not enough facts out to really kind of dive into it. It's whether that he did it or not. Do I think he did it? I don't know. He's innocent until proven guilty. I know he's a proponent for being in the news for off the field stuff, considering there was an incident in Vegas where he accused cops of basically being very authoritative and abusive towards him when that exactly was not the case. He's been outspoken on political issues, so he has those issues off the field. But he's innocent until proven guilty, and we really can't dive into it too much until more comes out, until the process due process plays out. So the Eagles on the field got a talented player in Michael Bennett. That defensive line is going to be scary. And again, they signed Mike Wallace. Carson Wentz is ahead of schedule. Nick Foles is not going anywhere. The Eagles are set up. I would say they are deserving of a number one ranking going into the draft. Other big news, Mike, Drew Brees re-signed with the Saints. Wasn't a shock, but he's back. The Saints are going to be deadly again. They're going to go all in. Now the team I want to really talk about, Mike, is the Rams. They brought in, not only did they trade for Marcus Peters from the Kansas City Chiefs, he has his own off-the-field issues, but he's a very talented corner. They brought in Aqib Talib, so you have Talib and Peters on both sides. They already have Aaron Donald. They just signed Ndamukong Suh to a 1-year, $14 million deal the other day. The Rams have a scary defense, and they are linked right now. Not that it's going to happen, but since the Giants are such a mess and Odell Beckham is a mess off the field as well, there's been rumors that the Rams would not rule out trying to go all in for a trade of Odell Beckham Jr. I think the Rams are trying to load up and win now, and not prepare for the future at all anymore.
Well, Aqib Talib and Ndamukong Suh are both players on the downside of their career. So Marcus Peters is still relatively young.
It's just
was
the
Peters a free agent, or did they trade for him?
No, they traded for him.
Because he's kind of a troublemaker too.
If you remember,
and Talib was a free agent. Right?
Exactly. There's been a lot of jokes made that the three of them can rent a van together, especially if Odell Beckham comes. The four of them can share a locker room area, rent a van together when they have to go to the NFL league office and pay their fines. They could save money on gas or something.
Yeah.
That's been the running joke. But you look at it, Talib and Ndamukong Suh have been playing for a while, but Marcus Peters, Mike, prime of his career, one of the best corners in the NFL, however, has the off-the-field issues. He's been a hothead. If you remember when the Chiefs played the Jets this past season,
completely freaked out.
Peters freaked out, got penalized twice, ended up throwing one of those penalty flags into the stands. He technically wasn't even ejected. He just walked off the field himself and went into the locker room. So this kid's a hothead. And for a head coach in Sean McVay who tailors to these young players, he's going to have a lot of work to do to kind of calm down this group and see what they can do. But I'll tell you what, Mike, if all goes well, the Rams are a scary team on defense. They have Jared Goff playing well. Todd Gurley is a great running back. And, Mike, if they somehow added Odell Beckham Jr., I would say you have a two-team race right now between the Eagles and Rams in the NFC. The Rams are loading up. I think they could be very, very good.
Yeah, absolutely. I just need to. I think their offense now has some questions to be figured out, but that's why there's a draft.
Of course there is.
Okay, they have San Francisco as 11.
They are riding high.
This is
on
ridiculous.
Jimmy.
Let's just skip this.
They're riding high on Jimmy Garoppolo.
Skip it.
You don't like Jimmy G?
It's not that I just skip it. I can't stand with these ESPN people.
Well, we're scrolling through.
They're going out of business.
Let's see what the Jets are ranked. How about that? You want to see what the Jets are ranked? They're probably
sure.
They're 26.
Okay.
Is that better, right? What do you think of the Jets move? They I mean, you're the Jets fan. They brought in Tremaine Johnson. That's pretty much it. They brought in Isaiah Crowell, Teddy Bridgewater, and Josh McCown are your quarterbacks. Now they're number 3 in the draft. Are you, Mike, if you're the Jets, still taking a quarterback at number 3?
Oh, yes.
Why would you not trade? There's been people in this department. I won't name names.
Name them, please.
Tim Califamo has said, I would not rule out the Jets not taking a quarterback at number 3. But why would you trade up all that capital to move up to number 3 so you guarantee yourself one of the top 3 guys? So if you don't get Darnold or Rosen, you're going to get Allen or Mayfield. I think the Jets, honestly, Mike, are taking Baker Mayfield.
Well, let me say one thing about Tim Califano. Right?
Okay.
If you don't ask him any questions about,
NASCAR or the Atlanta Falcons.
No, please. That's even outside of his area of expertise. If you don't ask him any questions about, corn agriculture, tucked in shirts, or belt buckles,
I was going to say big buckled belts.
Then you really have no reason to speak to him. Now let's go to your comment from somebody that could actually function in the real world, and this is what I will say. I agree with you. The Jets want to take Mayfield. Now, I do also think the Jets like Allen. Darnold, I think, is going one.
I think he's going number 1.
I don't want the Jets to draft him anyway because there's a bad track record of USC quarterbacks, especially California quarterbacks going to the East Coast.
So let me just ask you this then: do you not want Darnold or Rosen? I still think Darnold's the best quarterback. It's going to be the best quarterback.
No, I think Rosen's going first. I don't think that's going to be a topic.
You think Rosen's going to the Browns first?
Darnold. Excuse me. Okay. I don't think the Jets want Rosen whatsoever. They have not seen. Now, the only thing is, I don't know if you remember this, when Jacksonville took Blake Bortles. I remember Mike Mayock freaking out because she goes, I visited Jacksonville. They had pictures of, was it Johnny Manziel in that draft? Or
yeah.
He goes, they had pictures of Manziel all over the place. They totally faked everyone out.
Bridgewater was in that class too.
Yeah, or they had pictures of Bridgewater all over, something like that, right? And they faked everyone out. Now, could it just be doing that? And the fact there's been no indication that they even like Josh Rosen, that they're actually interested in him? I don't think so. Josh Rosen, I don't think he's going to be a very good NFL quarterback. I also think that he has a serious concussion history.
So you're low on Josh Rosen.
He's kind of a pain.
That's the biggest issue to me with Josh Rosen. He's a pain off the field, and he doesn't. To me, I mean, you have to look at a quarterback who's a quote unquote football guy. I don't think Rosen's a football guy. You have to look at a guy like John. I mean, I'm not going to compare him to Johnny Manziel, of course, but Johnny Manziel. Initially, before he has cleaned himself up in the way he speaks now, he's very down to earth and grounded. And I hope he does get another shot, but that's beside the point. Josh Rosen, like Johnny Manziel, is not a football guy. He's in it for the fame. He's in it for the attention. I don't think Rosen is as crazy. He's not a big party guy like Manziel was, coming out of in college and coming out of college and going into Cleveland. But Josh Rosen, to me, is not a down-to-earth type of football guy. He has questioned authority in the past. He's been a guy, I don't think this is a big deal, but he put a hot tub in his dorm room when he wasn't supposed to. But again, not that I think that's a big deal, but it just goes to show you, like, a guy like Sam Darnold's not going to do that. Sam Darnold's a football guy. He's a grounded, he's a hard worker. Not saying Josh Rosen isn't, but a football guy to me is the guy who doesn't let the outside world distract him. Darnold does not let the outside world distract him. Josh Allen is that type of guy, whether he's going to be a good quarterback or not. Baker Mayfield has had his off-the-field issues, but he is a football lover. He is obsessed with football, learning the game, getting better. To me, a guy like Josh Rosen is not that. And I'm going to ask you, Mike, if you have to take one of these 4 quarterbacks, and you're guaranteed, at least 2 of them, because 2 of them are not going to be off the board, but you're guaranteed one of those top 4. If you, Mike, are the Jets, who are you taking at number 3?
Listen,
and this is only hypothetical that the Browns go with Darnold and the Giants take a quarterback, which is probably going to be Rosen.
No.
But the Giants are not guaranteed to take a quarterback.
I think if Rosen's on the board, the Jets still won't draft him. I don't think the Jets are going just because it's.
Say
Rosen to the Jets is not happening.
Can you foresee a scenario where the Browns take Saquon Barkley number 1, and then the Giants don't draft the quarterback, and all of a sudden you have the pick of the litter? Because the Browns are the 4th pick, and my initial thoughts were that the Browns would take Saquon Barkley number 1 and then just take one of the quarterbacks number 4.
No, because the Browns know the Jets are drafting a quarterback. They know that the
And
Giants
that is
are
probably going to take one.
Yeah, so
They'd be smart to, but the Giants then again have been linked to Bradley Chubb. They've been linked to Mike McGlinchey or one of the other offensive linemen, or even Saquon Barkley. So you don't know.
The only way they don't draft a quarterback
the
first,
Giants,
Cleveland.
Cleveland.
But
yes.
let me tell you one thing. This is why you also need to draft a quarterback first. It's also like if
you have your pick of them. If you like one of the guys, just take them.
No. It's just that, just in terms of the public image of it, like, oh, we have a new quarterback that we actually picked second in the first round. You know what I mean? Like he was our second pick in the first round. If you're going to draft a quarterback to be a franchise, you got to take. He has to be your first pick, and not only that, you can make him the first overall pick. That's a bigger deal. That's why they're going to go quarterback. Now, let's go back to the question of Mayfield, Allen. I go back and forth on this.
If Darnold fell to the Jets somehow, would you take him?
I think the Jets
over Allen and Mayfield.
I do think the Jets would take him then.
I think they love Darnold if they can get him.
I do think the Jets would take him then. I just think it's not happening now. It's really for me. It's really between Mayfield.
Look at Mel Kiper's mock draft. He has Josh Rosen going 3 to the Jets.
Yeah, but he doesn't know anything, Mel Kiper. I tell you one thing. You should put Mel Kiper in a room with Tim Catafamo and let them do a mock draft. That would be interesting.
That would be
now.
Tim would start rallying off NASCAR drivers.
Oh, he's ridiculous. Now there is a difference between Allen and Mayfield. Allen, much better physical talent in my opinion. Bigger size, bigger body, could run a fit sometimes.
I think he's a great physical talent. It's a matter of does his game translate to the NFL.
His arm is good, but there are accuracy issues.
Yeah, he's a pro-style quarterback. He's one of those guys who fits a pro-style offense, but is he good enough to manage himself in the NFL? That's the biggest question I think with him.
But then, and what you like about Mayfield is that extremely accurate, not extremely accurate, mobile, but not like the athlete Allen is. Doesn't have the arm strength that Allen has, not at all. But the Jets are never going to be a deep ball team. And honestly, when you play 8 games in the Meadowlands, it's probably not the best thing in the world to be a deep ball team. But I think what I really like about Mayfield is that this guy has been a walk-on twice in his career. Twice.
First was Texas A&M.
Yeah, Texas Tech.
Was Texas Tech?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's been a walk-on twice in his career and made it both times. Both times he started off a walk-on. Both times he fought his way up the depth chart.
He led his team to the playoff twice.
He has good leadership. Now, I know he's not the best character in the world, but you know what?
I said before, he's obsessed with football.
He is obsessed with football, and that's what I really like about it. No, Manziel wasn't obsessed with football. Manziel was obsessed with celebrity.
And I don't like the
the
Manziel Baker Mayfield comparisons because Manziel was so far off the other way with the drugs, the alcohol, the partying, the fame, the money. That's all he was about. And of course, Mike, he went to Cleveland. I mean, nothing against Cleveland because we were just there, but when you go into a situation like the Browns, who are just desperate and they're just throwing darts at a wall, Manziel was not in a good situation. For the Baker Mayfield, Mike, honestly, I think he's in a good situation if he goes to the Jets. The Jets are rebuilding, but they have a nice, talented young defense. Are they going to make the playoffs this year? No. But are they going to be better off with Mayfield at their quarterback position? I think so. One thing I'm going to say to you, Mike, no matter who they take, I think their rookie quarterback is going to end up starting day one, unless it's Josh Allen. I think if Josh Allen is their pick, he will not start day one.
I don't believe that. He could maybe, and then because we
and then
last thing before the break,
in.
I do think that he could play his rookie season. I don't think he's going to play right out of the gate.
Allen, you're saying,
or make Mayfield.
Interesting.
I think Bowles in his world, McCown starts 4 games, 5 games, and then the rookie comes in. If the rookie comes in.
So here's my question to you: does Bridgewater ever start a game for the Jets this year? I think the way you look at the Jets this year, I kind of compare it to the Eagles quarterback situation when they traded up for Carson Wentz. They went all in on trading up. They drafted Wentz. He was going to be the third-string guy. Luckily, that's going to be the case with your rookie quarterback if you're the Jets. McCown is their Sam Bradford. Teddy Bridgewater is their Chase Daniel, their expensive backup. Then they have their rookie quarterback.
Well, I think if everything works out for the Jets, then Bridgewater doesn't start because
that's my thought process.
The
too.
McCown to whichever rookie quarterback transition works out.
Last question before you leave, Mike.
Yes.
Would the Giants be absolutely moronic to not take a quarterback at number 2?
Oh, I think it would be
one of the biggest gaffes ever.
Oh, for the Giants, absolutely. I think
because they've been linked to Bradley Chubb, who's a great defensive end, but and everybody's saying that too because they just got rid of JPP. He's going to Tampa Bay. They want to bring in Chubb. They've been linked to Saquon Barkley, and they've been linked to a couple of linemen.
Well, if they do want to go after Chubb, what I would do is if I were them, I would trade down to let's say like five or six, because
Denver might take a quarterback too. You can't rule that out.
Exactly. So I would actually, if you want Chubb or even Barkley, I would trade down to like somewhere between
4 or 5,
somewhere between like 6 and 9. You know what I mean?
That far down, you think?
You know what they would get though?
But do you think Chubb would fall that far?
Well, I think between Barkley and Chubb, one of those two could fall that far.
That's interesting
because there's so many. 4 quarterbacks are going to go. Let's say they end at 7.
4 might go in the first 5 picks.
Yeah, 4 might go in the first 5 picks. So when you factor that into it, then if they want somebody,
they could trade down to 6. You're right.
They could trade down to 6. So if they do that and then go at a quarterback, that's fine.
It depends who they trade with though at number 2.
But I still think,
say Arizona jumps up or Buffalo jumps up.
I still think that's foolish though. You're not going to be in this opportunity to get a quarterback.
That's
like
what
this.
I keep saying. They're never going to be this high again.
Yeah, exactly. So you go now, and honestly, the Giant fan that's supposed to be the composed, emotionally mature, and respectable
the
fan,
G-men
because
way.
The Jet fans are a bunch of raving lunatics, which they are, and they scream at little children and women and all that stuff. Right? I hear these stereotypes all the time from the Giant fans. Not all Giant fans, but a select group of Giant fans. They, who were supposed to be calm and composed, have totally let their emotions for Eli get the best of them. And I think why they're so attached
still
to
thinks he has 2 to 3 years left.
And the reason why they're so attached to Eli is because there's a lot of vulnerabilities about the fact that they never were as dominant as they like to be. This was a team that really
2 seasons
had 2 seasons,
got hot.
And besides that, not very impressive. And I think there's a lot of vulnerabilities in their psyche about this that this whole Eli thing is exposed.
I love this analysis.
And I think they're letting their emotions for Eli get the best of them. And they let it get the best of them last year, because if you really wanted to see who the quarterback of the future was, you would have started Davis Webb. You never would have put in Geno. But they didn't want that to happen because they refused to admit that Eli has been in a process of decline.
They didn't want to say, Eli, you're done after this year.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, that's good.
Because they're cowards.
They are. All right, that's going to do it for this segment. I'm going to take a quick break. Mike is out the door. Excuse me. He is headed to his grad course at Princeton. So we will see him again next week. And for the NFL, I'll tell you what, draft's coming up. I'm excited. It'll be at the end of April. And again, our WRSU NFL mock draft is coming up April 24th. It's a Tuesday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Excuse me. We will have Dylan Merzinski, Gabe Sustick, and Ryan Moran back as alumni judges. We are now going to take a quick break. It'll be just me for the last segment of the show. Talk a little bit about baseball. Opening day is coming up soon. I'll mention a little bit of basketball too. Some hockey. Kind of give you the other 3 sports all at once as we look ahead to the playoffs. Excuse me. My phlegm is acting up this morning. Think about that. I just gave you a bad mental picture. Basketball, hockey, approaching playoff time. Baseball is about to start. It's springtime. Easter is Sunday. Turn of the weather. Let's hope. It's very cloudy out right now. I don't like it. It was kind of cold this morning. But we'll deal with it, as I know you will, folks. All right, we'll take a quick break. On the other side, baseball, hockey, and basketball. Make sure to keep it locked. You're listening to The Opening Drive here on 88.7 WRSU FM and online at WRSU.org. Welcome back inside to The Opening Drive. Nick Kosko with you. Mike Antosiewicz is out the door. He is gone. Just me up until 9 o'clock. 8:49 right now. Take you up for the next 10 minutes. Give you everything at once, basically. As we talk, or as I talk, excuse me. Some hockey, basketball, and baseball. I'll give you my preseason outlook. I would say my preseason predictions for the season. And then, we'll go on from there. Then we'll discuss more next week. Next week we'll discuss some Masters since we're on Wednesdays now, it'll be easier to discuss some golf as the Masters start next Thursday. Best time of the year for golf. Tiger Woods is back. We'll dive into that next week. So any event you look at, hockey and basketball, seasons are winding down. The regular season almost over. We're finally once it's April, you can start getting ready for basketball and hockey playoffs, and then of course the start of baseball. It's one of the best times of the year. It's just nonstop action because everybody is into baseball because it just started and it's back. You haven't seen it since end of October, early November, and you have that craving for it. Then, of course, baseball kind of drags a bit once you hit June and July, and then from there, everybody's back into it once it's the September races, and, of course, the playoffs start. But this is one of the best times of the year because March Madness is winding up this weekend with the Final Four in the National Championship game. Baseball starts. Hockey and basketball playoffs are just around the corner. NFL draft is here, and then all of a sudden you get into more NFL talk as the summer approaches, and then all of a sudden we repeat the cycle again. So I'll start with hockey real quick. A couple of teams have already clinched the playoffs. Tampa Bay and Boston running that Atlantic Division. That's actually a race for the number one seed in the Eastern Conference. As far as the Metropolitan, nobody has clinched yet. Washington in first place with 97 points. Pittsburgh in second with 92. Columbus in third with 91. And, of course, the wild card race right now between Philadelphia and New Jersey, 90 and 88 points respectively. Those are your two wild card teams, while we look at also the top three in each division make the playoffs. So right now the playoffs would be Tampa Bay, Boston, Toronto, Washington, Pittsburgh, Columbus, and then Philly, New Jersey. So your matchups right now, I'm looking at Tampa Bay, New Jersey, Washington, Philadelphia. You look at Pittsburgh, Columbus, and then Boston, Toronto. So first of all, I hate the playoff format for the NHL. I hate the top three in each division. And then, you could do that, but then you have to seed them accordingly, 1 through 8. I hate this format. If anything, guarantee your division winner a top 4 seed like you do in the NBA. The division winner is guaranteed the top 4 seed. I don't like it. I really don't know. I don't get it because I hate the fact that you can't seed them 1 through 8. I know you're giving the top seed against the lowest seeded team, but then you have all these divisional matchups. You have Pittsburgh, Columbus right now. They should be lower on the totem pole. If you actually look at it, Washington, despite the fact they're going to be a quote-unquote division winner, and they're going to be the top team in the Metropolitan side of the bracket in the Eastern Conference, they're technically the fourth best team in the conference right now. So I don't like it. So playoff race is coming down to the wire. There's only 10 teams alive for the 8 spots. Florida has 85 points. Carolina has 79. Carolina might be on the outside looking in here, but Florida creeping up on New Jersey and Philadelphia. Philadelphia lost again in overtime last night to my dismay. They did get a point, but they're still a point behind Columbus. I would prefer Philadelphia to be in the top 3 in the division and not having to play Washington in the first round. But if they make the playoffs, hey, that's a bounce-back year for them. Western Conference, Nashville, and Winnipeg have clinched in the Central Division. Vegas, the Vegas Golden Knights, the expansion team, they clinched this year 103 points. They have the third best total in the Western Conference. It's good for them. They're still battling out with San Jose and Los Angeles in that division. St. Louis and Anaheim tied at 91 points apiece for the wild card. Colorado 90 points and Dallas 96, so they're still alive. So NHL playoff race coming down to the wire. I'd say your favorites right now are probably Tampa Bay and Boston in the Eastern Conference. You can never rule out Pittsburgh. Washington, I don't trust. So my 3 teams I would look out for in the Eastern Conference right now are Tampa Bay, Boston, and Pittsburgh in the Western Conference. I really don't know. It's up in the air. I'd love to say Chicago, but Chicago is bad this year. They are already eliminated. They were bad, and it shows you how much I pay attention to hockey for the first half of the year. But Vegas, how could they not be your favorite? Vegas and Nashville, to me, are the 2 best teams in the Western Conference. I know Winnipeg is very good this year. You can't rule out St. Louis or Anaheim. The Kings are back to where they need to be, but Vegas is very good, and they've stayed like this all season long. I would say Vegas and Nashville are your top teams in the Western Conference. All right, enough of hockey. We'll get into it more as the playoffs approach. Let's get into basketball real quick. Eastern Conference has filled out 5 of their spots already. Western Conference only 2 of them, which is actually kind of surprising. Eastern Conference number 1 right now, Toronto, followed by Boston, Cleveland, Philly, Indiana. They have all clinched their spots. Washington, Miami, Milwaukee likely to clinch very soon as Detroit is in 9th place, but they're still 5 games back of 8th, and Charlotte is 5.5 games back. So I would say they're probably likely going to be done as there's only 8 games left. And if Detroit has to make up 5 games they have to basically make up 5 games in the last 8. That's not happening in my mind. So I would say those are your 8 playoff teams. It's just a matter of where they're going to be seated. I think Philadelphia, my own Sixers, are extremely good. Markelle Fultz returned. It was a decent return. He could be that spark that they need going into the playoffs. It's a distinct possibility. You look at Cleveland. They lost to Miami last night. Cleveland, much better now again because LeBron's going off. Kevin Love is back. Do I still think Cleveland's going to go to the finals? Yes, but I think it's going to be a challenge. I mean, just say the playoffs end where they are now, Philadelphia can still catch them, and Philadelphia is capable of beating Cleveland. They beat them on the road already this year. Just say they flip there. You got Toronto 1, Boston 2, Philly 3, Cleveland 4, Indiana 5, Washington 6. Say Philly beats Washington. Cleveland's going to beat Indiana. You now have Cleveland, Toronto, Philly, Boston. Kyrie Irving's hurt. Does Philly win? I can't guarantee that. But Boston likely will make the finals. Then you have LeBron against Boston. They're going to roll through them. Cleveland, no matter what, to me, is going to the finals, even if they're a 4th seed. I just can't see it happening. The West is going to be very interesting, though, considering you have Houston now 6.5 games up on the Warriors. Steph Curry's not going to be playing until at least the second round of the playoffs. They're not going to fall They're not going to fall to 3rd place, but they're not going to catch Houston either at 1st place. I still think Golden State's going to win. I think ultimately you're going to get Golden State Houston in the conference finals. Can Houston beat them? Depends on the health of the Warriors. That's in my mind. If Curry and Durant are fully healthy and then you get 75% out of Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, Golden State should still win. But they're more vulnerable this year. Can Cleveland beat Golden State? I don't know. Can they beat Houston? I don't know. I think it's going to be Cleveland against Houston or Golden State at this point. The Western Conference is going to be interesting. If Kawhi Leonard ever comes back, San Antonio can make a run, but I think you have a 2-team race in the West, and ultimately Cleveland's going to win in the East. Coughing this morning. So now that I got my quick recaps of the NBA and NHL out of the way, I will go into baseball as the season is coming through. I will give you my picks now as to who is going to win each division, who your wild card team is going to be, and who ultimately is going to go to the World Series. So right now, let's start with the AL East. I have Red Sox, Yankees. I think they're both going to make the playoffs. It's going to be a toss-up as to who wins. I'm inclined to lean for the Yankees right now because they are loaded on offense. The pitching's the big question mark. Same goes to the Red Sox. They have a great offense, but the pitching's a question mark. Sale is pretty much a guarantee to give you a lot of wins, but is he going to tail off? David Price. What David Price are you going to get? Rick Porcello. Which Rick Porcello are you going to get? There's injuries right now to Drew Pomeranz and Eduardo Rodriguez. So you're plugging in different guys in the lineup, or excuse me, the rotation for the Red Sox right now, so you just don't know what they're going to give for you. The bullpen's pretty solid. You have Craig Kimbrell and Carson Smith back there, but who's going to set? Is Carson Smith going to be that setup guy like the Red Sox want him to be for Craig Kimbrell? But I think the Red Sox and Yankees ultimately are going to make the playoffs. The Central, I know the Twins made the playoffs last year. The Indians are going to run this division. I don't think Detroit or Chicago are any good. Kansas City's not any good right now. Minnesota has a chance for the playoffs, but I think Cleveland will make the playoffs, winning that division. And then in the West, you have Houston. I think they're going to win the division again. Then it's Seattle, Texas, Oakland. I think they're out. I think LA can make the playoffs. I think that last wild card spot is going to be down between the Angels and the Twins. I say I'm going to lean with the Angels because I think Trout, no matter what, is the best player in baseball. I think Ohtani is not going to be as good as people want him to be, but I think he would be a solid addition to the lineup and maybe the pitching staff. The Angels might be good enough to squeak out into the wild card. So as far as my playoff teams in the American League, I have Boston, New York, Cleveland, Houston, and L.A. I would say Boston and the Angels are the wild card teams. Boston wins. They will play I'm going to say the Astros are going to be the number 1 seed. So you got Boston, Houston, Cleveland, New York, just like last season. I think you're going to get. I want to pick my Red Sox again to get to the ALCS, but I just think Houston's too good. I think you'll get Houston, Yankees again. Houston. I think Houston's going back to the World Series right now. I'll go Houston out of the American League right now, my preseason pick, and then over the National League. Nationals are going to win the NL East by a landslide. I think the Phillies are a dark horse to make the playoffs, but I don't think they'll get there. In the Central, I'll go with the Cubs again. I don't think anybody else is going to get out of there. Maybe Milwaukee. They're a decent team. The Reds are dreadful. The Pirates are not any good. Cardinals, you never know. They always come out of nowhere every year. Or any given year they can come out of nowhere. So maybe the Cardinals. Then I got the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks coming out of the West. And you know what? I'll throw the Cardinals in there. Give me the Cardinals. So give me Cubs, Cardinals, Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and then give me the Nationals. And give me the I want to pick the Nationals, but they can never get out of the first round. You know what? Let's give me a rematch. Give me a rematch. Give me a rematch of last year. I will go Dodgers and the Astros. A World Series rematch of 2018. I know I compressed that. I know I compressed a lot right there, but yeah, I'll give it to you. All right, that's gonna do it for me. And next week, Mike and I will be back. Discuss some other stuff. NFL free agency again. We'll discuss some NFL stuff. Baseball, basketball, hockey. We'll give it all to you. We'll discuss the Masters as well. It'll be a packed show next week. Make sure to keep it locked for further programming here on 88.7 as you've been listening to The Opening Drive with me, Nick Kosko. Have a good day, everybody.